By sunrise, a whole neighborhood was burning.
Greenwood, Tulsa, Oklahoma. One of the most successful black business districts in America was disappearing block by block. But when I first came to Tulsa, none of this had happened yet. It was December of 1920. Just weeks earlier, I'd been in Council Bluffs, Iowa, following the trail left behind by that $3.5 million mail train robbery. The trail wasn't finished, but New York had already sent me somewhere else. Tulsa, a new office, a new job, a city I barely knew. I arrived with one suitcase, a few papers, and one name I still couldn't put away. Whitmore. At the time, I thought Tulsa was just another stop. I had no idea what I was about to see.
The office was easier to understand than the city. Helen Parker showed me where everything was, the files, the desks, who handled what. And after a few weeks, Mr. Mercer stopped checking every page I put in front of him. I took that as a good sign. Then February reminded me that Oklahoma could change fast. A winter storm hit Tulsa hard. Snow buried the streets, streetcars slowed, and for a while, the whole city seemed to stop. So did I. At home, I cooked, drank too much coffee, and one night, I decided I was tired of looking exactly the way I had when I arrived. So, I changed it. By March, the snow was giving way, the office was busy again, and Mercer handed me a new assignment.
Greenwood offers so many opportunities for us. Most of these properties are Black-owned. Good morning, Mrs. Carter. Our community is growing every day.
That was where I met Evelyn Carter. And that was when Tulsa started becoming more than just another city on my route.
Greenwood had no shortage of strong names, men who had helped build the place, and men whose names carried weight far beyond a single block. Dr. A.C. Jackson was one of them, a respected surgeon, a man people trusted. And then there was O.W. Gurley, one of the men who helped turn Greenwood into a district of black businesses, black property, and black ambition. By the spring of 1921, that success was visible everywhere you looked. Shops were open, cars moved steadily through the streets. People were working, buying, building, and planning. Some of the most important figures in the district were still moving through those streets as if the future were secure. It wasn't. But in those days, no one could see the end coming clearly yet. Life went on. Evelyn knew the neighborhood block by block. Sometimes she was guiding residents, sometimes business visitors, sometimes people who had simply come to see Greenwood for themselves. And for me, the work stayed practical. Policies, buildings, inventory, valuation. Evelyn took me inside one insured business after another. She checked the ledger against the stock on hand, and I wrote down what the company would need, the condition of the property, the contents, and the value. At the time, it felt like ordinary work. Later, I would understand just how much of that world was about to be lost. And then, there it was again.
Whitmore.
I wrote it down, but before I could learn much more, Tulsa gave me something else to follow. May 30th, 1921. At the Drexel Building downtown, a young black shoe shiner named Dick Rowland entered an elevator operated by a young woman named Sarah Page. Something happened inside. Exactly what has never been clear. But Rowland left the building quickly, and by the next day, a small, uncertain incident
had become something much larger. By May 31st, the story was moving faster than anyone could control it. Newspapers were being printed, copies moved into the streets, and with every conversation, the story seemed to change. Dick Rowland had been arrested. Sheriff Willard McCullough kept him inside the courthouse and refused to simply turn him over to the people gathering outside. In Greenwood, the fear was obvious. The word people kept hearing was lynching. Some of the men who responded were black veterans of the First World War. They went downtown to make sure Rowland was protected. They were told he was safe, and they left. But as evening came, the crowd around the courthouse kept growing. The facts were getting harder to find, and the fear was getting easier to feel. Businesses began closing. People watched the streets. The city felt different. Then came the first fires, and after that, everything moved quickly. Greenwood came under attack. Homes, businesses, and entire blocks burned through the night. There were also reports of aircraft above the district. Some accounts later described objects being dropped from the planes. Exactly what happened in the air and what role those aircraft played remains disputed. By the morning of June 1st, the Greenwood I had come to know was almost impossible to recognize. I went looking for Evelyn. I found her alive. For a moment, that was enough. Then came the work after the fire: registration tables, temporary shelters, food, medical care, stacks of names and papers. Maurice Willows helped organize the Red Cross relief effort, and B.C. Franklin worked from a temporary tent office, helping residents fight for their property and their right to rebuild. Then the insurance claims began arriving. Back at Metropolitan Indemnity, Mercer and I opened one file after another: property losses, business losses, homes, and then the clauses. Riot, civil disturbance, exclusions. Too many people had paid for insurance, only to discover that the words inside the policy could matter more than what they had lost. Greenwood had been damaged in a matter of hours. Recovering from it would take much longer. When I finally left Tulsa, I was leaving a city I no longer saw the same way. And somewhere in my papers, one name was still there: Whitmore. Tulsa was behind me. That trail wasn't.